Hi guys, welcome to Primus Learning. So in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can deploy a single container, which is basically the same idea if you have multi-container application to ECS, that is the Elastic Container Service provided by Amazon. This tutorial we're going to divide into 3 steps. That is, we have the first step, which is pushing the image to ACR. Then the second step is deploying the application to ECS Fargate. Then the last step, we are going to build a pipeline using the code pipeline also provided by Amazon to automate all our changes and our deployments. Okay, that said, what do we need for this? Prerequisites that you're going to need for this tutorial, you will need an AWS account, and you need to also connect that AWS account to your personal, that is to the computer which you are going to be using for this tutorial. You also need a GitHub account because that is where we're using our code, where your code is going to be saved. And then you also need a Docker installed in your computer. That means you can install Docker on your personal computer, or you can use an EC2 instance or any instance of your choice. So long as you have Docker installed, is fine. And also in the same computer which you have Docker, make sure that you have connected your AWS, that is, you have configured your AWS CLI to it. Okay, that said, we're going to go straight to the first step of this tutorial, which is actually pushing our image to ECR. And maybe some those who don't know exactly what ECR is. ECR is simply it means Elastic Container Registry, which is the container registry provided by Amazon. But you must not necessarily push just to ECR. There are other options like the Docker hubs too, but in this case, since we're working with AWS, we are going to use Elastic Container Registry for this tutorial. Now, so that said, let's go ahead and create our Elastic Container Registry. Now, for the first time, I like using Canada as my region. You can use a region of your choice. So for those who haven't created an ECR repository, for the first time creation, you will see create a repository. So just click on get started. And once you get started, you allow it on private, then you enter the repository name. Now, my repository name will depend on whatever I'm working on. I could say my repository name, what should my repository name be? It can be my application, my app. But know that in the enterprise scenario, you have to use names that matter depending on the project on which you are working on. Now, if I have my app, that's a repository name. And if you go down here, you see, uh, so I think that's what you just need to add the repository name. Not really a lot to change here, but there are other options that you can further go and change, like the tag immutability, the scan push, and also the KMS encryption if you want the images to be encrypted. But let's go ahead and create the repository. So create our repository. So our repository is created. You take note of this URI because we'll constantly use it multiple times. You will use it a lot of times. Now, once our repository is created, what are the next steps? Let's see the next steps we'll have to follow. In the next steps now, we need to do what? After creating our repository, we need to get our application from GitHub. Now, I will advise you guys to go ahead and instead of cloning the application, you could fork the application first before cloning from your own personal repository. Because in a later case, I will need you to push some changes to this particular repository. But for now, we're just going ahead to clone the application and build the image and tag it, then push it to our ECR repository. Now, the repository is found, I'm going to add the link to the repository in the description of this video. So if we go ahead and copy the link, then I already have my lab set up. So I just need to do a git clone to clone the repository. My lab computer is a little bit freezing. Give me a second. Okay. So if I recall it, I SSH back into my Docker lab. I clear my screen. Then I git clone my repository. Git clone. Then I do a git clone. That's my repository clone. Clear. Now I cd into the repository. Cd. What's my repository? Let's give my ls. I cd into the repository that we just into the directory which we just clone. And you can see a Docker file inside. Let's verify. This is actually a very simple application. The Docker file is not really complicated. It's just a static page, and with Docker file is just to build an image for a static application. So let's see if you see on the Docker file, let's cut and you see it just uses the Apache base image. Give me a second. Cut Docker file. It uses the Apache base image and it just copies all the files into the htdocs directory. So that's let's go ahead and build the image. So to build the image, you just do a docker build -t to add the tag, and I can just call it my app, and I specify where my Docker file is found in the current directory, and there we go. So let's give it some time to build. Now it's done building. Now once the application is done building, let's go ahead now and push the application to our ECR repository. Now to push the application to our ECR repository, we need to first of all be able to connect to that particular ECR repository. Now Amazon makes it easy. I'll provide also I'll add this in the README. Amazon makes it easy for us to update our ECR login. So now how do you get to do it? Because normally if it was in Docker Hub, you just need to do a Docker login and then you enter the password and the passcode. It's easy and straightforward. But now for the Amazon, you need to just specify the AWS ECR. Use the AWS CLI ECR login. That is, you're going to use AWS ECR, get login password, specify the region, and you now specify the Docker name, the user, Docker login user, password, and then your repository URI. So we just need to specify our region in this command and also specify your repository URI. Now just copy the command, do the modifications. I don't really need to cram all of this in my head. So if I go back to this, now our region is based in CA Central 1. So if I go back, where is the region? Our region is found. I delete this. Oh, I paste it. Need to go back. Region is found in CA Central 1. That's Canada, I mean. Oh, you know what? I will paste it on to modify it. I don't know what's happening to this guy. Clear. So I'll paste it on a simple empty. I'm going to paste it on an empty. Normally these things are not working. Okay. I'm going to paste it on an empty and modify it on the notepad and modify it. So now I'm going to have the region is CA Central, CA Central 1. Then now our username, we don't need them, we just specify the repository URI. Now let's go ahead and copy the repository URI. Notice that when the repository URI was created, we had the repository was created, we had the repository URI, which is this. Just go ahead and I copy the repository URI from here. I don't know what's happening to this computer, that is a little bit slow, but that's no issue. Control A, copy the modified command, then I come back to my computer and I do. So right now we're trying to log in or to get the authenticate into our ECR repository so that we can be able to push into it. Now I say login succeeded. Now after login, we need to now tag our image. If you look, I'm going to add these steps too on the so that you can actually follow along. So now we're going to tag our image. Now tagging our image, to tag the image, you just simply specify the name of the tag of your image, then you specify now the repository URI, and then you also specify the 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 tag, that is it is in the dev, it's in the prod. So I'm just going to tag it as dev for now because I can consider why it's in the development stage and still in the testing stage. It's not the production yet. So now if I go ahead now, and I hope I still have it copied. So I think we saved, we tag our image as well. The first image name was what again? Let's verify the image name. I think I just have one image. Let's verify Docker images. Okay, the one image, I have two images, I have my app. So the name of my image is Docker, is my app. So I'll just do Docker tag as the image name is called my app. Then I'm going to specify the URI of our repository, then the tag, I'll just call it dev. So what does this say? It says cannot perform interactive login from device. It requires 2 arguments. Where am I going wrong? Give me a second. Okay. This recently my Visual Studio environment has been disturbing, so I don't know what's really happened to it. Alright, let's go. I don't know what's happened to my Visual Studio environment. It has really been disturbing recently. Docker tag my app. I think that was it. My app. I paste. No, that's not what. Okay, I copy the URI. Let me copy the URI so that. I get the issue. Copy the URI. Then I paste the URI that we copied. Then I go ahead and I tag it with dev. Once tagged, everything is good. Clear the screen. I clear my screen, then I go ahead and I just do a Docker push. Docker push. Now I specify and I tag it to be on dev. And that's the image being pushed to our ECR repository. So let's give it some time to push. Then after it's pushed, we can now verify on our ECR repository, that is our Elastic Container Registry, if it has been pushed to it. As I said, you must not use ECR. You can also use Docker Hub. But the thing with Docker Hub is that you're going to use Docker login instead. So it varies. So it's depending on how you're working on. And also know that for you have to have your AWS configured here. Just that I cannot show you my credentials for my AWS configuration, but my AWS CLI is already configured in my server here. So Let's verify from the registry if the image has been pushed. If I open my app, you will see that there's an app called dev inside. Let's see, you see there's something called dev because the image was tagged dev. Now, so that's it. In the next section, and the total size for the image is 80.84 megabytes. So in the next session, we are going to now see how we can deploy this image to ECS without having any issues. Like, see you in our next tutorial, and thanks for being attentive. Any questions, you can always send them, comment them below, and then we are always ready to answer your questions. Thank you.